Okay. Reading from the I think it's Antya-Lila 4. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Antya-Lila 4, text 5:17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Ekodivasera yata caitanya-vihāra. Koṭi vatsare keha, nāre varṇibāra. Even in millions of years, no one could describe the pastimes that Lord Caitanya performed in one day. Pakshiyena akasera anta nahi pai. Yata dura shakti tata dura udayai. A bird can reach the end of the sky. It only flies, cannot reach the end of the sky. It only flies as far as it is able. In the same way, there is no end to Lord Caitanya's glories. One could describe them only as far as one is able. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmalatam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Caitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So greetings from Mayapur, and this will be the last greetings from Mayapur for, I don't know, some time. Tomorrow morning I leave. Just to keep you updated, I'm going with Bhakti-Vigan Swami, and it's something I more or less had an idea to do when I became a little ill last year, is that get a Panch Karma, a complete overhaul. So I'll do that for approximately 3 weeks in Kerala. I've been here a month. Mayapur is Odaryadam. It's the land of magnanimity. There's mercy in all regards. The communities here are quite wonderful, and how it's developing, because near the temple, it's become a little bit like a city. But if you go out, I would walk to visit. I took lunch with Niranjan Swami, or previous day with a devotee I knew from Israel, and I visited 2 people. You go along the Chulungi River out into the real Mayapur, and there's beautiful developments. There's a whole community of devotees just developing. I mean, there's hundreds of beautiful apartments with parks, and there's one place I went to that's even further down called Gore Village, where they sell 100 plots, and they have a trust. It's very intelligently done. They have a trust. It's not a profit organization, but the place is beautiful with roads and beautiful houses and nice communities of people dedicated to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I've been coming here for about, I don't know, for 20 years, well, at least. Anyway, I've been coming here, and I each year, I don't know how Yugal and Jagadish, where I'm staying, they're the best Russian translators. So it's kind of a treat for the Russian community, which is huge. Mostly it's Bengali and Russian, but huge Russian community. And I get a translation where I'm speaking almost, I don't know the translators there. So in that way, and of course, because it's English also, other people come. So I develop a really tight relationship with the people. And it's a very wonderful culture. Even when people pass you on a bicycle, they stop, or a motorbike, they stop it and they pay obeisances. They're just happy to see a Prabhupada disciple, a sannyasi, person they know. So it's really been, wonderful. Yeah, it's really been wonderful. And the quality of people that you could meet. So I'm sure at this health resort, I assume Bhaktivedanta Swami picked out some place where he felt the Ayurvedic doctor was renowned. I'm sure they'll be connected in some way, and I guess it'll depend a little bit on my schedule there. So, and I have to leave today well, about a half hour more, a little bit more, about 35 minutes more. I have an appointment at 7:30 tonight. And then tomorrow I leave. Yeah, Lord Chaitanya's mercy, and by the mercy of Vrindavan Das Thakur, he's trying to communicate a little bit about that. This is Caitanya-bhāgavata, but by the Caitanya Charitamrita, that character of the life force and immortality, where people have spiritual character. They don't just follow selfish whims, they follow principles called absolute truth. And it's a very, very beautiful, beautiful thing. Selfishness is not beautiful. Centering the world on your own desires is not beautiful. It's not happiness for yourself. It's not pleasurable for another. We like people who are principled. Principled means they follow principles because there are principles. And the deterioration of the modern world is kind of a conception that seeps in all spheres of society, that a ludicrous, I think, conception that there's no absolute truth. And it doesn't. Anyway, I'm just thinking of harmony when there is a center. Just like Prabhupada said, when there's a pond and you throw a rock, and if it hits the center, it's harmony. If there's many centers. So there's a center. In the Bhagavatam, it's called Vedanta Tat Tattva Dach Tattva Yad Jnanam Advayam. Rameti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti. It's called Paramatma, Brahman, Paramatman, Bhagavan, according to your perspective and your approach, but it's Advayam Gyan. There is one thing. There is one thing that unifies everything. And when you're coordinated with that, then it's beneficial for everyone. Just like the hand, Prabhupada gives a simple thing. If it's coordinated with the body, then it's for everything. So there's a center, there's a God, there's an absolute truth. And this is trying to entice us to a society where that is recognized. Just like the story of Krishna going to the forest with the cowherd boys, And when Prabhupada describes Krishna's in the center and all the cowherd boys are around him in concentric circles, like a whirl of a lotus, and they have that unity towards that center. Prabhupada said, it's beautiful and it's blissful. So we're learning about that. Where there's a unity and the center has manifested in the form of Caitanya-Mahaprabhu. And he's visiting Shantipur, and Advaitacharya, he realizes that it's the appearance day of his Guru Maharaj, Madhavendra Puri. It described how they met. He could actually see the legitimate symptoms of devotion. It's a very beautiful thing. Devotion, humility. I went with Mamu Thakur, and those of you in Colombia, Yaduraj, they accompanied me. There's one lady that, and her and her husband used to work for me about 20 years ago. And then her husband suddenly died. And she just took complete shelter of Sridham Mayapur, a guru. And somehow or other, I got a message from someone else I know that she heard I was here and she'd like to see me. She was going to come visit me, but my schedule was really tight and I was going to be in that area. And, you know, I visited her, and you see a saintly person with nothing bad in their hearts, that live their life totally for God, and are embodiment of humility. It's such a beautiful thing. And when you have a society like that, it's such a beautiful thing. Yeah, today was an interesting day because I was leaving, so I walked. I like to walk here. It's been very healthy for me along the bank of the Jalangi. And there's two complexes. One is called Jalangi Dham and then Rasamrita Kunj. So first I stopped and saw this lady. And then I was going to take lunch with Dhanurdhara Swami, but first, there's this other family that I'm really close to. I knew the mother and father who were very, very extremely powerful devotees. And somehow or other, I don't know the whole story, but while they were in Moscow, somehow or other, two full sets of Radha Krishna came to their home. Somebody whimsically bought them and wasn't qualified and left them. And somehow the most beautiful Radha Krishna deities. And they asked their guru, can we worship them? And the guru said, you can worship them, but they're Radha Krishna if you have full program of worship. It's like 3 offerings a day and 5 artiks. And this lady was so powerful. This lady was so powerful. She had a whole community of people she inspired to serve. And somehow this lady and her husband, at my age at least, somehow, I don't do much preaching in Moscow, but in the place that I have, she would come with her whole community and I'd give class. And then she came one day and the next day somehow she died. And then her husband died. I think by this time they were just visiting the deities who were in Mayapur. And then they had a daughter and a granddaughter. And all of a sudden it fell upon them. And so powerful. And they took it up and the worship. I took Mamu Thakur, beautiful, and Yaduraj. And her daughter is 19. I guess she must be in her 40s. And what do? They wake up the deities. They offer sweets to the deities. They offer artik, then another artik, then noon artik, then And what I was speaking to her is the concept that I've been thinking recently, and I'll write it in Monday morning greetings, that you may have you may accomplish something in Krishna consciousness, but it doesn't have to make you proud. Because a lot of times the way you accomplish something in Krishna consciousness is you surrender to this service that's very, very difficult and impossible. But what you actually see and what actually observe is sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto matasmitir gyanam apo. I am situated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, forgetful knowledge. The inspiration comes from Krishna. So as you're doing something like this, you're also observing God at work. And the concept of ego is prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha hankara vamuda kartaham. The one thinks that he's the doer or she's the doer. But you can actually observe. That's ego. So you may accomplish something, but if you can actually see that the intelligence and inspiration to do it and carry it out is actually coming from God, I was telling her, it's not made you more proud. When I told her that, she actually began to cry. And she described how her parents grew up. She's a disciple of Dhanurdhara Swami, Niranjan Swami. When her parents left and she asked, I'm with the deities, should I keep up the worship? And he said, yes, you have to keep up the worship. The standard has been set. And she just was crying. I'm doing it for the pleasure. And she started to name all these spiritual people who inspire her. I put my name in there too, because I appreciate. And then I looked at her daughter, who's 19. And I said, what gives me most pleasure is here's your daughter, 19. I don't, father is not there. I don't know who the father is. I don't think he's still with them. And what's nicely, I've been seeing her since she's a very young girl. And what a 19-year-old girl can do in the modern world. But here she is, she's assisting her mother and serving the deity. And then she began to cry. So it's a very beautiful thing. Humility, service, devotion, a community which has that kind of center. A very beautiful thing. And we saw it here. The devotees came together in this Gaur Leela and made this incredible festival and display of love for Madhavendra Puri. Even Lord Caitanya, when he was inspecting everything, was absolutely amazed by the level of service. Absolutely amazed by the level of service. Actually, when I'm here, I have so many good friends here, but I've become very close with the person who is building the TOVP. Somehow it's a circumstance where he doesn't get credit for it. But he built Prabhupada's Samadhi. He's been doing this for 30, 40 years. And if you see that building, it's actually coming out quite beautiful. The complexity of it. He was telling me, even when they were putting the piles in the ground, somehow the water had to be a certain temperature, and it was the summer, and he had to arrange ice for the water as the piles, and put a thing with the temperature, and then the incredible artwork that's being made. These Shivaram Swami said, he said, never saw dioramas so beautiful, because they're going to be a little high. They come out of the panels and they're done authentically. And then you see these Russian artists, these a lot of Russians here, who've also One girl I know, she used to come to my class. She said she married the TOVP, and she was serious. I think she maybe married. She's married to the TOVP, and just serving. So you see that here, and Lord Caitanya was astounded. Even this name, the devotee's name, Sadbhuj. He looks so simple. You wouldn't believe the genius this person has to different marbles and different things and knowing everything and organizing, inspiring people. So sometimes it's astounding. It's astounding what someone can do when they become an instrument for the will of God. And therefore, I think in the history of art, the most beautiful things have been done for God. The Notre Dame Cathedral. Again, my friend Henry is there, and in the morning when I visit his house, we'd always walk to the Washington Cathedral. These places took hundreds of years to build, 100 years to build. And so beautiful. So here, it's mentioning that this glory of these pastimes, what Vrindavan Das is describing, how can he describe the pastimes? Because when you deal with the concept that there is God, then everything is possible. That is a definition of God. That there's nothing can reach. Usually you're limited by something above you. But if there is a being where there is nothing above them, then there can be no limit. And there's a limit, it's not God, because the power is greater. So he's saying when it comes to that and the pastimes of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, you can't limit them. And he's just saying, I'm trying to describe. And that type of humility is essential for describing spiritual pastime, because you have to be empowered to do so. You can't ascend with your intellect. And I mean, just these books are quite amazing, because even, the Bengali verse, it's all in rhyme, and there's philosophy and there's pastimes, the life and teaching of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the basic principle. You start with that principle. When you want to understand God and anything about God, you start with the basic principle that God must have inconceivable potencies. In the Isho Upanishads, the second verse describes that, I think. I've quoted it many times. Tad ejati, tad naijati, tad dhure, tad vantike, tanantarasya sarvasya, taru sarvasya vaya. He walks, he doesn't walk, he's near, he's far. Inside, he's outside. I always quote that German philosopher where he describes God's universe. He has no limit. Even if there's no God, let's say there's no God, can there be an end to space? But where does it go and go and go and go? And if it stops, there has to be something beyond it. So the very factor of reality, when you think of reality, it is inconceivable. Not even talking about God. Let's say you're just a scientist, a material scientist, reality. And it goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And beyond that, it goes. Reality is inconceivable. Rationally, logically, it's inconceivable. And therefore, the creator of reality, who's enjoying within reality, Parasya Shakti Vividhaya Shuyate, who has unlimited shaktis and potencies for pleasure, and pleasure is love, and love is, if there is love, if there is universe, if the universe, if love exists in the universe, there has to be a concrete expression of that love. And the concrete expression of that love is Krishna's pastimes and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. There's a little, in the building here, it's their home, but they have different apartments in it. And they have a nice hall, and I lectured there. I'm lecturing on Krishna Lila. This is Gaur Lila. So you can keep on going and going and going and going. But when you deal with that reality, that absolute reality has unlimited potency, it goes on. And one who hears it never becomes tired. Vayam natu vichiptyatma uttama shoka vartate yachinvitan rasa jnanam swadusa. Sages of Namaskar, we never get tired of hearing these beautiful exchanges. Whatever I describe is only by the direction of Sri Gaur Chandra, just as a puppet dances only by the direction of the puppeteer. So anyone who's dealing with speaking, teaching, spiritual subject matters has somewhat of this experience. One second. I need a new pair of glasses. I can't even see out of these ones now. Let me see if these ones work a little bit better today. So that's why there's prayers before one begins to speak. Before one begins to speak, on a spiritual subject matter, they always offer prayers, because prayers put one in a consciousness of humility, because the basic form of prayer is exaltation of the object of worship. And in doing so, putting oneself in a subordinate position, it creates a beautiful consciousness of humility in the heart. And humility allows one to be an instrument. And to do this, you need to be an instrument. So he's expressing that. I do not know the proper sequence of Lord Chaitanya's pastime, yet I am somehow or other trying to glorify him. Interesting, he didn't know the sequence. And sometimes the sequence is not important, so important. Therefore, dates and chronology, even in the Bhagavatam, it says sometimes we get these wrong, because the book is not about that. Every book has a sambandhi, a specific relationship with the absolute truth, a specific relationship. And that relationship of the book is to explain the absolute truth and to glorify God, and history is not so important. What happened may be important, but the chronology of it somehow is not. In other words, they try to get the chronology right, but that's not where we're going to put their energy. Accepting Sri Caitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Thus ends the English translation of the Govinda Bhashya of Caitanya-bhāgavata Antya-khaṇḍa, chapter 4, entitled The Scriptures of Sri Achyutananda's Pastimes and the Worship of Madhavendra. So we can start the next, let's see if I got it right. What chapter are we up to now? Chapter 5, I did get it right. So it will begin. Where does it begin? Oh, it begins with some prayers. I don't have my glasses. I got to get new glasses. So just beautiful prayers, glorification. It's so nice for the heart. And generally what it does, I explained this before, prayers generally exalt an object and express one's need for mercy, which is a expression of humility of one's position. So the greater you feel the object of your exaltation is, and the less qualified you feel to attain it, which is the right reality in relationship to understanding the absolute truth from our perspective. The greater that distance is, the more mercy you will feel in your heart. And the more mercy you feel in your heart, the more love you feel. That's the secret to Krishna consciousness. That's why the third verse of the Shikshastakam, Lord Caitanya said we should put it around our necks. One should tranadapi, sanichena, tororapi, sahishtana, amanina, madinena, kirtaniyasa. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one should chant constantly. But why you can chant constantly? Because when you're humble, you can feel love from above, which is called mercy. And feeling that love from above, you develop love for that which is above. And when you have that feeling of love, then prayer is imbued with that love, and love is pleasure. And it has no cause outside of itself. So it's pleasure within itself. I explained this in Bhagavad Gita. It says devotion is sasukam kartamabhya. It's joyfully performed. Because it's a hoitaki. It has no cause. You're not doing it for any reason for yourself. Once you do an activity for some objective, then the objective is the pleasure and not the activity itself. Where love, the activity itself is the pleasure. And specifically, there's no cause or reason you're doing it outside of that consciousness. And therefore, it's pleasurable. And therefore, you can chant the holy name constantly if you have that sense of love doing it. That's one of the things I was thinking in terms of thinking New Year's, et cetera, that our activities have to come to real bhakti and real devotion. Then everything becomes so pleasurable because that's the feeling in the heart connected with God and connected with God's pleasure. When I went to this lady, she's so humble. but she said, she wants to increase her chanting, and she asked me. I think she's more qualified than me. But I told her what I realized. I had this sense this morning, because one thing I'm become very strict about is I have a time every day where I start chanting and end chanting every morning. And there's nothing else that I do or touch. So I thought the most important thing is to have that. And if you're serious about that and continue that, then every day you'll improve something. And the improvement means the activity becomes more focused and more pleasurable. But I also had this realization, because I'm chanting for quite a few hours, sitting up for quite a few hours every day in the morning. And sometimes you become listless or distracted. And then what I do is, when that happens, I consciously think I have to become more focused. I have to increase my effort. But when I think of increasing my effort, I realize the effort that I have to increase is not just the activity, but the feeling. If there's something I want, I should feel that want now. I want to chant more. I want the mercy to focus on the holy name. I want Krishna's reciprocation. I try to add that begging. It's not just I'm increasing my intention, I'm increasing my feeling by realizing that if this is something I want, that want should be there. So it's so nice they begin with these prayers. All glories to Sri Gaurasundara, the spiritual master of everyone. All glories to Supreme Lord, who's like a desire tree, fulfills the desire of his devotees. Jaya Jaya Nyasi Mani Sri Vaikuntanath Jiva Prati Karo Prabhu Shubha Drishtapati. All glories to the best of the sannyasis, the Lord of Vaikuntha. O Lord, please mercifully glance on the living entities. O glories to Lord Gauranga along with his devotees. O glories to the ocean of mercy, who is full of compassion. O brothers, hear with attention the topics of Antya-khaṇḍa, where the pastimes of Sri Gaurasundara are described. Yeah, perception is not just based on the senses. You require focus of consciousness, or attention. You require understanding, and you require the right attitude. There it says attention. Because without attention, there's no perception. Without understanding, you won't interpret things properly. And without the proper attitude, your envy will cover your vision. Okay, I really got to go in about 3 minutes. But if some of you nice people, Jamuna Jai, why don't you start quickly?
Hare Krishna Raj, thank you so much. So many wonderful points, but and this weaving in about the importance of prayer to feel humility. But I love the way you said that even as you're accomplishing something, if you really look at it, you see that you're not the doer, and it gives you the opportunity to glorify Krishna even more, to think, I didn't do this. To quote our friend Adi Purusha, how wonderful is Krishna that he's giving you the facility to do it. So I really appreciated that point so much.
I wrote about that in Monday morning greetings, because I start every week with a blank, and then something comes out, which I'm kind of satisfied with. But, how do I get there? Well, I try. And then it's somehow the intelligence comes, but where is that intelligence coming from? And then it allows you to achieve beyond your capabilities. So you don't really get that sense of accomplishment. I did it so much as you get that sense of the glories of Krishna and his mercy that he's using you as an instrument. Okay, anybody else like to share a reflection?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribo. Bhakti Devi.
I'm surprised Jamuna Jaya didn't say she has a new button. You know, mercy, love from above. I think it's a
Oh, I
great
got that
button.
one.
Enjoy the pancha karma. Enjoy it. I'm sure it'll be wonderful for you.
Enjoy Panchaga. I mean, if I can tell you why I have to go, the reason I have to go is that Jagadish and his son booked the Russian sauna for me.
Oh, good. Enjoy it.
They want to beat me with the eucalyptus leaves. So honestly, I get up early and I do other activities, but somehow it's the last day. I haven't had an opportunity for that. So he wrote me and I'll do it. Okay. Anybody else?
Maharaj, I love that you were glorifying Sadhbhuj. What an amazing devotee. I remember him very well. And he really has been behind so much of what happened there.
It's Henry, when you actually know him, the art, the mechanics, he brought these chakras from I mean, these 100-ton chakras getting made in Russia. And somehow shipping them over and then figuring out how you actually hoist these things on the top of, these are like engineering feats that you can't, and he's got to figure all that out at the same time, getting the design and he takes me for a personal tour every time, and I kind of see what they're doing. They had a little elevator, it takes me up to the roof. You walk around and you see there's these chhatras that can fit 100. And, in the future, there'll be, Vaishnav speakers in each of these chakras with, these chhatras on the top, 150 people. And it's quite an amazing thing. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Ed. Okay, anybody else? Say hello.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Malati, how you doing?
Haribol, it's nice to see you and you look very well. Nice to hear your class. I have a lot of inspiration. Thank you.
What's that?
I took away a lot of inspiration from your class. Thank you.
Thank you, Malati. Great. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hey, Gail, how are you? Well, I went to breakfast as Savita, right? So because I didn't have I was filled up with lunches. So I said I can come over for breakfast, right? I said, make something simple, right?
Uh-oh.
There were parathas, pakoras, more sabjis, dokla, dhanya chutney,
Oh my God.
honey. That was something simple for her.
Unfortunately, she was so unhappy with her outcome.
Oh boy. It was, and I brought some people I know there. And anyway, and I got to see Manu, we FaceTimed with him, so he saw us there too.
Mm.
Okay, Grungy. Okay. Anybody else say hello? And then I'll skip out for.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hey, okay, Haribo. Thanks, Caitanya-bhāgavata. Haribo, good to see you.
Oh, you too.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Who's saying hello?
This is Yasaman.
Yasaman, Haribo.
Yeah, Haribo. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you for all your effort and the class also.
Really great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, Haribo. Oh,
Hare
Thanks for the beautiful class.
you're in a different
I
place from your.
really missed your class.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go now because of
Yeah,
people.
I'm in tell her my mom is in Kish Island.
Reception is bad, so I can't really hear you too well, but okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to go now. Vancha kalpa, turubhyascha, kripa sindhu.